Now, let's talk about semiconductors and the massive piece of legislation that's a little bit controversial and is moving through Oregon's legislature very fast. Today, Senate Bill 4 passed the full Senate by a vote of 21-8, with one senator excused. That was Democrat Chris Gorsuch of Gresham, for those of you wondering. The bill is fueled by the federal CHIPS bill passed by Congress last year. That authorizes $52 billion in grants. The federal law is an attempt to rebuild American-based manufacturing in the semiconductor industry. As one of Oregon's largest industries, getting a piece of that $52 billion pie, that is a big deal. Here's how the money shakes out in the bill as it stands now. And let's just say this is the less controversial part. $210 million total, $190 million in state money would go to support applications by Oregon semiconductor companies for a piece of that $52 billion. $10 million would go to local governments to help prepare land for semiconductor development. And the final $10 million would go to University Innovation Research Fund. That's to help train the next generation of chip workers. Companies can apply for grants or loans of up to $50 million. For every $1 million they get, though, they must commit to job creation within Oregon, with 65% of the jobs being permanent and paying at least the median income for their location, or they have to generate at least $1.25 million in state and local revenues. But now let's talk about the more controversial part of Senate Bill 4. We told you the goal is to make land available quickly for semiconductor companies. And if this bill becomes law, and I think it will bring the biggest change in Oregon's land use laws in half a century. It will give Governor Tina Kotek what we are calling a superpower. It will allow her to designate certain plots of land needed for chip factories and take away the land use restrictions that would ordinarily make it impossible to build there. The governor will have the power to issue an executive order and move a plot of land that is outside the urban growth boundary into the boundary. That boundary is what now limits growth on the outside edges of cities and towns across Oregon. She will be able to do that with up to 8 sites, 2 that are any size larger than 500 acres, and 6 that are up to 500 acres. The governor must hold one public hearing near the site before bringing it into the urban growth boundary and take comments for 20 days. So, yeah, this bill has some pretty big implications. And some of you may be thinking that surely something like this involving land use laws will be challenged in court if it passes the legislature. And the answer is, yeah, you're probably right. But an amendment to the bill from last week narrows the scope of a challenge like that. The Oregonian newspaper reports industry backers worried that lawsuits could delay development for years, and that would scare off companies. So the new bill would not allow those suits to toil away in the court system for months or even years. Instead, they'll be fast-tracked straight to the Oregon Supreme Court, which basically means if you're going to challenge the governor after she picks a plot of land, you get one chance to fight in the state's highest court. Now, those who love open land and farmland are furious at the implications. The possibility that protected farmland could be changed into a setting for a semiconductor plant. One of the co-chairs of the legislature's Committee on the Semiconductors, though, previously told us, despite the governor's new superpower, land will not be taken from a farmer who does not want to sell. And from what we're hearing, there is real bipartisan momentum to get this bill passed through the session and quickly. It's expected to have its first reading in the House of Representatives tomorrow, and you can bet it's going to go through. Our past coverage has focused on the lawmakers who are pushing for this to happen. We wanted to hear from someone in the legislature now who does not want this bill to pass. So we got in touch with Republican Senator Daniel Bonham of the Dalles, who voted against Senate Bill 4 today. He said the legislature should not outsource its role and responsibilities to the executive branch, and continued by stating the legislature continues to treat symptoms in lieu of directly tackling the underlying systemic challenges and barriers to development that are inherent to our current land use laws. Bottom line, not all land is equal, and I don't think the legislature should trust this decision to the discretion of the governor. So there's that. Now, what do you think about Senate Bill 4? It has bipartisan support, but it needs to pass the House before it heads to Governor Kotek's desk for her signature. Let us know what you're thinking about that. Send an email. The address is thestory@kgw.com, or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090.